Hey, it's Alex from Revolutionary Sex here, and if you follow the simple tips in this video, you'll easily be able to give any woman the most mind-bending sex of her entire life. So, how would you like to be able to literally take control of a woman's body and give her orgasm after orgasm so powerful that she will literally not be able to control her screaming? In other words, how would you like to have complete power over how much pleasure you want to give her? How would you like the ability to build intense feelings of intimacy and trust with a woman, make her feel incredibly close to you, develop a powerful emotional connection with you, and a deep desire to have you as her man, just by the way that you touch her in the bedroom? How would you like to have the expertise to achieve mastery in giving women mind-bending pleasure, even where all of her other previous partners have failed before you? The sad truth is that, unfortunately, most men will simply never experience any of this, not in this lifetime. I'll explain more on why that is later and how most men are actually programmed to be bad in bed. Look, I'm sure you've heard the old cliche that women like sex more than men do. It gets repeated all the time because, well, most men find it a bit hard to believe. I mean, think about it. Most men have the experience of wanting sex pretty much all the time. And then they see women turning away sex all the time. And come on now, is it really true that women like sex better than men do? Well, here's the facts. Women like good sex more than men do. And they like it much more. It's just that they hardly ever get good sex. And for a woman, bad or even just so-so sex is much more disappointing than it is for men. Most men will line up around the block for so-so sex, but women won't. And that's actually because they do, in fact, value sex much more than we do. For most women, sex is a bigger deal. They're filled with just as much desire for pleasure as men, maybe even more. Plus, they can experience orgasm after orgasm and reach screaming heights of mind-losing bliss that the male body just isn't normally wired for. And add to that, as if you'd have to add anything to that, they get incredibly powerful emotional benefits from great sex and orgasm that literally dwarf the feelings that are available to men. In fact, women have entire regions of their brain wired up for this pleasure that are 10 times larger than in men. And because of this, disappointing sex can actually be very hard on a woman. And unfortunately, women have come to expect disappointing sex from most men. The result of this disappointing sex is everywhere you look. I hear couples fighting over nonsense that nobody should care about. And of course, I always know what's really going on. Look, nobody cares that much about how you loaded the dishwasher. But women feel betrayed and unloved when they're not getting what they need sexually. And if you have any close female friends you can talk to about this, just ask them. They will tell you that whatever excuse women use for saving your ego and to avoid being called names when the guy turns angry and defensive at the end of a relationship, most of the time, it's this sexual dissatisfaction that's their number one motivation for breaking up with a guy. Though, like I said, that's never the reason that they tell you. Or worse, they end up cheating a few times first to see if the grass is any greener with other men. And it usually isn't, but they just can't help trying. And it's not that these women are heartless or immoral, it's just that they literally can't understand why the sex isn't the way they dream of it being. And eventually, they begin to resent you because they feel like if you really gave a shit, you'd actually do something about it. You'd make the effort to figure this stuff out. Like in their mind, you're the one that betrayed them long before they cheated on you. And sure, plenty of women don't cheat because of deep moral convictions or, they won't leave their relationship out of respect for the genuine love that they feel for their man. But let me ask you something. Is that good enough for you? Is it okay that she doesn't cheat or leave you just because she's a woman of good character? Because that feels pretty crappy to me. If you're anything like me, you want a woman to stay with you because she's 100% thrilled with her sex life, because she doesn't want another man, because you're the only man she dreams of being with, period. So I'm going to give you some powerful tips that you can use starting tonight that will help make sure that the next time you take a woman to bed, she is completely satisfied and fantasizing about the next time she gets to be with you. And guess what? It's not even hard to do. The bar is actually set pretty low. The fact is, like I mentioned before, most men are actually programmed to be bad in bed. First of all, the sex advice that's out there is so completely simplistic that it's a joke. The kinds of tips you read in magazines can actually and often work against being a good lover. And yes, I promise I will explain more about that in a minute. Women are at fault here too, because they read the same crap and then they repeat it, hoping it's going to help, when in fact, the fact is they're rarely in touch with themselves and what makes a good lover because, well, most of the time, they've never been with one. But one of the biggest problems these days is the powerful rise of internet porn, which has trained an entire generation of men to suck in bed. And look, I have no problems with porn. Porn's cool with me. But if that's where you learned about sex, if that's where your first sexual experiences were, your woman just might be less than satisfied. Because watching too much of it can actually condition you to do things in a certain way that isn't actually organic to what naturally gives women sexual pleasure. Even on the most basic level, enjoying porn is a mainly visual activity, whereas making love is not a visual activity. It's mainly a body activity and a communication activity. And the communication, by the way, doesn't necessarily need to be verbal at all. In fact, you can get along just fine without any words at all. But look, if you were working with another human on any kind of project, anything, say something simple like painting a room, obviously you'd have to communicate to get it done well. I mean, even if it was just something like pointing to the paintbrush and grunting and then making paint motions towards the wall. Well, succeeding in creating beautiful sexual experiences with women is no different. And just doing a bunch of techniques that you saw in a magazine or in a porn video is not going to come even close. And 99% of guys just don't know this. And this isn't anybody's fault, because men have been brainwashed by our culture into thinking that if they just do the right move, that the woman's going to have an orgasm. And in case this went by without you noticing, that was a huge tip that you can take from this video immediately. If you do nothing else but make a small effort at paying attention to what your woman is communicating to you in bed by showing or telling her what you want, paying attention and noticing what feels good to her, being present and connected with her. And this, by the way, is as simple as just making eye contact, giving her hand a knowing squeeze, smiling at her when she does something you like, just letting her know that you're with her, that you're participating together on this thing, and not just trying to get her or yourself off. Practicing this part alone will put you miles above most other men who don't really communicate at all. They just do their own thing. But don't take my word for it. Just go do it tonight. See for yourself. And let me bust another big myth right here. I keep seeing websites that say, if you can just give her an orgasm, she'll be happy and never leave you. What a crock of shit. Look, giving her an orgasm should be the absolute minimum for decent sex. But let's not kid ourselves and think that doing something she can do twice as fast by using a vibrator makes us king for the day. Bottom line, men are generally disappointing in bed because there's generally no way for them to learn to be anything else. And the screwed up thing about it is, it's not even hard to be great in bed when you have the right information. So here's some more stuff you can use tonight to rock her world. Important sex tip. Never ask a woman what she wants in the bedroom. Now you might be asking, what? Didn't you just say that communication is the most important thing for being good in bed? Yes, I did. And you might also be thinking about how all those women's magazines and talk shows are always yammering on about how they just wish men would be more open to asking them about what turns them on and what pleases them. And honestly, asking a woman what turns her on in bed is not bad as dinner conversation, but don't ask her what she wants when you're actually making love to her, because when you do, it makes you look tentative and uncertain. It breaks her out of the moment of pleasure and sexiness and puts her into her logical brain. And that's exactly what you don't want. And it makes her wish that she was with a man who already knew what turned her on. So I don't care what the women's shows say. Asking her what she wants when you're in bed will almost always make her experience some level of disappointment. Here's what to do instead. Ideally, you want to already have a deep understanding of the kinds of things that drive women crazy in bed, both physically and emotionally. And yeah, I'll talk about that more in a minute. But since all women are different, and since they often change what turns them on based on what mood they're in on any particular night, or for that matter, in any particular moment, you need to pay attention to what's working, to how her body responds, to how she's breathing and the sound she's making. In other words, whether she says anything or not, you need to notice this. You need to notice that she probably is already communicating with you. She's already telling you what she likes. It's just that if you're like most men, you're not paying attention, which is another reason why when you ask her, it just makes her frustrated. Here's another huge tip that almost every guy gets wrong. Often, this one little problem completely prevents their partner from being able to have an orgasm. In fact, this one little tip, which is so brain dead simple that it's almost ridiculous, has resulted in literally, I'm not kidding, hundreds of couples emailing me to tell me that this was the one key that made it suddenly easy for him to give her consistent, powerful orgasms every single time they made love. And if you've ever seen a woman at a dance club, or even if you just watch a woman when the music comes on in any room, you'll immediately notice that women are much more affected by rhythm than men are. And that's probably because it's so wired into their sexual response. When you're stimulating your partner, whether with your fingers, tongue, or during intercourse, it's important that you find not just where and how she likes to be touched, but also focus on finding the rhythm that she really responds to. If you're paying attention to her body, it's going to be obvious when you find the right beat. Then, and here's where almost every guy goes wrong, as she gets more and more excited and she seems like she's going to come, resist the urge to speed up. Men are wired to sprint for the finish. When we feel like we're getting close, we just feel like a hardwired urge to go faster and harder and get the job done. But the problem is, when you go faster and harder, you drop the beat. You lose the rhythm that was working. And then you hear her say things like, "Oh, I'm so close," or "Wait, I was almost there." Sound familiar? Well, here's what you should do instead. Just keep going without changing the rhythm. In a few minutes, or even just a few seconds, sometimes it's actually that close, she'll have a deep, satisfying orgasm. That's it, really. And yes, it actually is that easy. It seems crazy that I get so many emails thanking me for something this easy, but I promise you, if you just try this tonight, you might be kicking yourself that you missed something this obvious, this easy to do, that can make your sex life this much better. And when I say that it's not men's fault that we don't know this, I mean because most women don't seem to know about this either. I talked to quite a few women about it who told me that when they're with a new guy for the first time, they can tell almost as soon as the sex begins if he'll be able to do the trick and make her come or not. And if he can't, well, then she either just has to be frustrated until he finally finishes, or sometimes she'll just fake it so that he'll get it over with more quickly. But none of these women could pinpoint why it was that some men had the magic touch and some didn't. And yes, I did ask them very pointed and directed questions, and they all said it had nothing to do with penis size or stamina or techniques or physical attractiveness or sexiness. Well, it turns out it usually has to do with this simple little rhythm trick. Bottom line is, it works like a charm. And there are two super simple variations on this rhythm thing that work even better. In fact, they're the key to giving women multiple orgasms, extended orgasms, and what I call stacked orgasms. Plus, I've got dozens of other, even more powerful techniques that you can apply to give any woman insanely powerful multiple and stacked orgasms. By the way, even when you've had trouble having any orgasm at all in the past, and what I've done is I put all of these tips, tricks, techniques, secrets, relationship tools into one simple to follow program that I call Revolutionary Sex. Here's what I've got for you. If you currently have a woman in your life, or if you'd like to create something magical with the next woman in your life, then I'm going to share a lot more techniques for driving her wild. Obviously, the stuff you're going to find in Revolutionary Sex works like crazy. It's the exact step-by-step material that has worked for thousands of men, women, and couples who've gotten my programs in the past and who are now having the best sex of their lives. Plus, this is the new 3rd edition of the Revolutionary Sex program that includes all of my latest material and a bunch of goodies and bonuses that I've never made available to anyone before at any price. As crazy as this may sound, you really can't learn this stuff from a woman. Because 1, most women have never been with a truly masterful lover who really knew what he was doing. And 2, no woman can achieve the kind of mind-blowing intensity of pleasure by herself while masturbating that a masterful lover can give her. So, frankly, they don't even know it exists. The fact is, most women have no idea that their bodies are even capable of the kinds of things I'm going to tell you about and explain in step-by-step detail in this program. The new revised edition is updated with new material, new ideas, and just between us, a couple of corrections to some stuff that I just understand better now than I did when I wrote the last edition. I've updated my should-be-patented 6-step method for giving any woman an orgasm, guaranteed. Frankly, most men would kill for this if they knew just how powerful and effective this one thing really is. And, brand new to this edition, a heat map illustration of the main erogenous zones of the female body, many of which are normally considered rated PG. But when you learn how to properly touch them, you can give women shocking, powerful orgasms without ever touching any of her naughty bits. If it weren't for the screaming, you could actually do this stuff in public. Plus, I explain how to become a sexual psychic and know in the moment exactly how she wants to be touched to give her the kind of deep pleasure that she really craves, but that she probably only thought existed in her wildest fantasies. Here's the way the program breaks it down for you. The first part is about you. I cover mental attitudes, basic skills and understandings, and all of the internal stuff that you need to blow the doors off what most women fantasize about when they imagine, their great lover fantasy. I explain, and only the important stuff, I don't go into details you don't need, about how your body and your pleasure works so that you have complete mastery over the things that most men worry about. Size issues, I cover the best positions and techniques to use if you're smaller than average, larger than average, or just average, so that you can give her the ride of her life no matter what nature gave you. A lot of men don't know this, but there are tons of techniques where smaller works better to give women intense, soul-shaking, scream-inducing pleasure. It actually makes me laugh to hear how often I get the same comment from women whose men I've taught this stuff to. They always use almost exactly the same words. His cock is the perfect size for me. Performance questions, I explain exactly why men sometimes find it's hard to get hard when the pressure is on, and my step-by-step method for destroying this issue in your mind forever. Look, you could give a woman orgasm after orgasm until she literally passes out, just from the finger and tongue techniques in this book. But I want to make sure that you're enjoying every second too. And besides, there is just something special about actually being inside of her during intercourse while she's having all these orgasms that you can't get from anything else in the world. So it's important to me that I completely eradicate this worry from your sex life. After all, there are way better things to occupy your mind with when you're making love to your woman. Same thing goes for stamina issues. I don't want you to have to give a second thought to lasting long enough to please her. So I've included everything you need to make that a complete non-issue. So you can just put those issues behind you and get on with the fun and intimacy of making her come hard during actual intercourse. I've devised exercises and methods and perfected them across years so that any man can learn how to last as long as he, and his partner of course, desire. Or as long as she can stand it without begging for mercy. And that's because the next part of this book is devoted to her. A master guitar player knows everything about his instrument. He knows how to tune it, of course, but he also intimately knows every fret, every string, and every way to draw beautiful sounds out of it, even with his eyes closed. In the same way, you're going to understand and master every detail of a woman's sexual response, from the deepest emotional roots of her earliest childhood awakenings to her wildest adult fantasies, from every nerve ending inside of her vagina to a complete map of every erogenous zone on her body, and the simple, no-nonsense approach to making every part of it sing out with pulsing, irresistible pleasure that's going to leave her completely spent and whispering things like, "How did you do that?" or "Oh my God, where did you come from?" Because that's the kind of thing you want to hear from her. And by the way, those are actual quotes from emails that I get all the time from men telling me what their girlfriend said to them the first time they tried out some of the techniques from the book. In the Her section of the book, I'm also going to explain things about the clitoris that will show you exactly why some women take so long to have orgasms, so that you know exactly how to make her come for you quickly and easily. I'll explain how to find, stimulate, and understand the G-spot and the A-spot so that you can give her deep, powerful vaginal orgasms that will make her feel incredibly close and safe with you. And I mean the expert level stuff that goes way beyond the simple crap you read everywhere else about the come here finger motion on the G-spot. And you need to know this stuff. Why? Because 70% of women get zero sexual pleasure from stimulating their G-spot. That's why so many researchers and gynecologists actually say that the G-spot is just an urban myth. And if your sex partner is one of those 70% majority, then once you learn how to awaken her sexual response to these nerve-rich regions inside of her, she's going to thank you forever for teaching her how to have this kind of intense and intimate pleasure in her life that she never had before. Frankly, most couples who are part of that 70% majority would probably pay 10 times the price of this program, and probably much more, if they knew that they'd get to experience this one thing that they thought they never would get to experience. And of course, there's tons of other physical techniques that are included in revolutionary sex, from the most powerful oral sex techniques, the best intercourse positions, anal sex tips, including, by the way, the absolute best way to go about creating a first-time experience for your woman if she's never tried it. Step-by-step instruction for giving her female ejaculation, foreplay mastery, and almost nobody really understands this correctly. But all of this is only half the story, without the deeper understanding of her sexual heart and mind. Sure, you'll be able to give her consistent orgasms, which is great, but virtually all women come preloaded with mental and emotional circuit breakers that cause them to shut off at some point and prevent them from experiencing too much pleasure. And we want too much. There's a scary level of pleasure that goes way beyond what most women will allow themselves to experience. And it's a level of pleasure where they no longer have any kind of control over themselves. It's an unknown territory of bliss so big that it freaks her out, and it makes her slam on the brakes involuntarily. And the central purpose of revolutionary sex is to give you access to those levels of pleasure, to give you the mental and emotional tools to open her heart to her deepest surrender, the surrender of all control, all possibility of control, a surrender to her lover to guide her into an abyss of pleasure that she seriously could never enter alone. And that's why the third part of the book is about you and her and how to manage the way you sexually interact together. In the together portion of the book, I open the mysteries to you of bringing her to these out-of-control places of orgasmic pleasure that come from guiding her from multiple orgasm to extended orgasm, and finally into stacked orgasms. In a stacked orgasm, you actually take her from the orgasmic state she's already in while she's having an orgasm, and you bump her up into an orgasmic state above orgasm. And then you do it again, even another orgasmic state above that one, and then again above that one. This requires new levels of understanding in how to sexually interact with a woman. It requires mostly nonverbal communication techniques, and it takes a deep understanding that revolutionary sex lays out for you step by step of building sexual trust with a woman so that she's comfortable with this kind of complete surrender. The Together part of the program also deals with uncovering her deepest and most secret sexual fantasies. It delves into everything from sexual role-playing to bondage and domination, and even into a deep understanding of why some couples are so drawn to sadomasochism and the darker energies of sexuality. Now, if you're drawn to experiment with this dark energy, revolutionary sex will guide you into the experience in a way that will help you appreciate it in the context of a loving couple who are edgy. They're exploring their personal edge. They want to know what their boundaries are. Even if you're not into that sort of thing, then just your understanding of why these thoughts exist inside of us and how they relate to your woman's experience of sexuality will make you more sexually powerful and trustable as a man, which will allow her to more comfortably surrender into higher states of sexual bliss with you. And revolutionary sex will guide you into the art of using your words in the bedroom, from dirty talk to sweet romantic whispering, to create new erotic possibilities for both you and your woman, including, by the way, exact word-for-word scripting that you can try out and use as a starting point for learning what you want to say in bed. I could go on, but I think I've made my point. Revolutionary sex is the last program you will ever need to become a master of female sexuality. Her body, her mind, and her heart. You're getting the gun and the bullets. Everything you need to create the most incredible erotic relationship you've ever imagined. In fact, if you were going to hire me for private phone coaching, you'd be paying me $500 an hour. That's my rate. And that's if you ever manage to fit into my schedule, which frankly is very unlikely because I haven't had the time for a new client in ages. You'd end up paying thousands of dollars for all the stuff that's already in this program, and if you're like any of the folks that I've coached in the past, you'd still be thanking me for it at that price. So look, obviously the techniques in revolutionary sex work. I get emails all the time from couples telling me that they had the best sex of their lives the same night that they read the book, and often from just using one of the dozens and dozens of incredibly simple ideas that are in there. And that's why I'm so comfortable giving you my 2 full month, no questions asked, money back guarantee. I make it totally risk-free for you, which is exactly as it should be, of course. Whatever your reason, heck, I don't care. Maybe you just don't like the cover art. I'm taking all the risk so that you don't have to. I want you to get results or I don't want you to pay, period. Are there some assholes out there that are going to take advantage of me because of this? Of course. But I've actually gotten emails from folks who said that they plan to just grab the goods and run, and then later, after reading the book, they actually decide to pay me anyway because they got so much more out of it than they expected. That's what I call good karma. And heck, I'm practically giving it away anyway. It's only $47. That would be like hiring me for 2 months to give you only my best material for 78 cents a day. Is your sex life over the next 2 months worth 78 cents per day? And if we really want to get honest about this, you'll be enjoying this stuff, and enjoying is frankly a weak word for what we're talking about here, for the rest of your life. I mean, I could work this out across like 20 years and say you were paying 0.6 of a cent per day, and even though that would sound kind of ridiculous, it actually would be more accurate. So put it this way, it's less than dinner for 2 at a decent restaurant. For phenomenal sex for the rest of your life, it's less than dinner for 2. Plus, as if you'd ever need anything else to make this a complete no-brainer, I'm also giving you some fantastic bonus material that I've never made available anywhere before. Over the past couple of years, I've gotten tons of requests for an audio version of Revolutionary Sex. Personally, I prefer to read stuff. But I have a lot of friends, and more of them all the time, who tell me they don't read at all anymore. They do all of their reading with audiobooks so they can get it done when they're doing their morning commute or while they're working out or washing the dishes, whatever. I finally bowed to the pressure, and for the first time, I'm also including a fully chaptered out, professionally recorded audiobook version of Revolutionary Sex, so you can listen on your iPod or your whatever. Some business advisors told me I should sell it separately and for a higher price, but that didn't make any sense to me. It just seems like it's the same material, so I'm including it. Another great bonus I'm throwing in is my mini book, How to Initiate Sex Without Ever Being Rejected. I've been selling this book separately, and I may go back to selling it separately at some point, but a few days ago I got the idea to include it in this package, and it just really felt right to me. Revolutionary Sex takes things from the foreplay point. There's really not much in there about seduction. And it seems to me like great sex begins with a great seduction. Whether you're on a first date and the sparks are flying, or if you've been married for 20 years, having a full understanding of how to start things up in a way that's both comfortable and exciting and sexy for your woman is a key part of the sexual experience. This book shows you exactly how to get her in the mood every single time. And it's in a way that she's going to welcome, enjoy, appreciate, and makes her feel sexy. Plus, You'll feel a lot more comfortable knowing that you can get her turned on without the fear of rejection. And nothing is 100%, obviously, and there are times when she's really not in the mood. I'm not saying this is going to work for Cat Just Died, but this stuff is some very, very good material, and it's going to work for you like crazy to put a lot more sex into your life. I think you'll be amazed by how much more often women want to get laid when you actually know how to seduce them well. And I'm going to throw it in for you just to sweeten the deal. But here's the real killer bonus. A couple of months ago, I was interviewed by multi-award winning media goddess and good friend of mine, Susan Bratton, for a live program she was recording called The Seduction Summit. Susan's famous for being one of the top interviewers in the world, so I'm just going to go ahead and give her all the credit for how good this turned out, but she got me to dig into the deepest material I've ever publicly shared. I mean, I've never talked about this stuff before. In fact, a lot of this stuff is my own personal edge. It's stuff I'm working on in my own relationships, in my own practice. And I'll be honest with you, this is such advanced material that I don't think the men who haven't already read Revolutionary Sex are even going to get what the heck I'm actually talking about. I started out by exposing the number one mistake that virtually every man who's on the path to sexual mastery makes. And it was weird because even as I was talking about it, I realized that a lot of my own teachings were contributing to this problem and making it worse. That would be reason enough to include this recording as a bonus to the book, just to clean up the mess that I've been accidentally helping to create, along with all the other sex teachers and sexuality experts out there. I also talk about super advanced topics like what I call female performance anxiety, which is the main reason that women who can't have orgasms can't have orgasms. And I share 3 new, incredibly powerful and very advanced techniques for building sexual trust that are not included in Revolutionary Sex. And I talk about how to use these techniques to create the deepest sexual surrender possible in a way that, quite frankly, 99.9% of the people in the world will go to their graves without ever experiencing or even realizing was there to experience. I talk about sharing your passion authentically in a way that makes women feel massive attraction, and how to unlock your woman so that she can access her own femininity in ways that she literally can't do for herself, that you're really going to enjoy. And I reveal the most counterintuitive thing that all women really want in bed that literally nobody knows about. In fact, it's not even included in my book. Plus, way more cool stuff. Honestly, as I'm writing this, I just finished listening to it so that I could write this bit. And I'm not kidding. I was blown away. This thing is freaking awesome. And I am super excited that I decided to include it because it's a perfect complement to Revolutionary Sex. And it's seriously going to change your life. So yes, I'm throwing it in as a gift when you get Revolutionary Sex. And look, I want to warn you in advance, Revolutionary Sex is not for guys who are not in sexual relationships. It's not stuff you're going to want to jerk off to or fantasize about. But if you are sexually active or better in a relationship, this program is going to change your life and hers in ways that I guarantee you're going to be thrilled about. And not to sound all, scary or salesy, but of course, I reserve the right to change this offer at any time and all that legal wording stuff because, frankly, I'm probably going to want to sell those bonuses separately again at some point in the near future. So bottom line is, if your gut is telling you to grab this program, your gut's usually right, and I wouldn't risk waiting. Like I said, it's fully guaranteed to work for you, and you've got 2 full months to test drive it. So click below to grab your copy of the brand spanking new 3rd edition of Revolutionary Sex, plus all the super cool bonuses, and start using this stuff tonight. So just to summarize, you get it all. It's the new 3rd edition Revolutionary Sex with all this great new stuff in it, plus the audiobook version that you can listen to on your iPod or your whatever, and the How to Initiate Sex Without Ever Being Rejected ebook, plus what I'm calling the Alex's Edge Super Advanced Sexual Concepts MP3, which is that interview. Really extraordinary stuff. I was kind of blown away. I don't even remember saying half the stuff that I said as I was listening to that interview. It is ridiculously cool material, and all for a ridiculously low price for everything, only $47. A really, really fantastic program that I'm really proud to have presented to you. So click below and order it now. It'll take you over to the secure order page. You can enter in your information. We'll have your stuff delivered by email immediately, and you can get started tonight. So just click below and order now, and thank you. So in case you're still here, There's a story that I'd like to tell you about if you're just on the fence. It's a personal story about what happened to me on New Year's Eve. And it just occurred to me that I would add this in because it feels good to me. It really meant a lot to me. Over the course of the last 7 years since I originally wrote my book, at one time or another, I've probably emailed it to all of my close friends. It's just, at some point we'd be having a conversation and they'd say, well, gee, Margin, I would love to try that out. Why don't you just send me a copy? And so, I would email it over to them, and then I'd never hear from them again, or at least not on that subject, which isn't surprising because, you don't pay for something and somebody just emails it to you, a good friend of yours who you know well. And, of course, they don't look at me as a teacher. They just look at me as a friend. So, I would send it out to them, and, of course, I'm sure they never even looked at it. Anyway, I don't know why, some kind of mystery of fate or karma or whatever, but apparently everybody that I know who I've been sending this book to over years, over 7 years, they all seem to have read it around the same time, which was, I guess in November or December of last year, because on New Year's Eve, when all my friends were together, all throughout the evening, one by one, couples were coming up to me and pulling me aside and saying, hey, Alex, we finally read your book, and wow, we had these amazing results, and we're having the best sex of our lives. Our lovemaking is at a whole new level, and we're so grateful to you. And this was happening over and over and over again. And actually, it actually drove me to tears. At one point, I actually had to excuse myself, and I walked outside so I could be alone for a little while. And I started to cry. I really, it was amazingly different from getting emails from customers, because these were people I really knew, people I love and whose lives I have a stake in. So over the next couple of days, a couple of them actually sent me some emails, and I included some of those emails, and I'm just going to click through them right now because I want to share them with you. And again, these are not testimonials from customers. These are actually my real live friends, and so for me, it's kind of special. And by the way, I put some of the testimonials from customers, folks that paid for it, below this video, so you could see some of those as well. And they're cool. They're awesome. In fact, those emails are the main reason that I do what I do. It's what makes me get up in the morning. It's what gives me enormous satisfaction in my work, because basically my job is helping couples have better intimacy and more pleasure in their lives, which is an awfully cool way to make a living. So I really love what I do. But let me just show you some of these emails that I got from my friends. So this first one, Alex, I read the ebook you sent me, and I want to share something with you. Alex, you are the real deal. As I was reading all your material, I was so present to the value you provide. I use so many of the distinctions you teach in other areas of my life, but I had never thought to apply them to the bedroom. Duh. You reminded me of the difference between masculine and feminine, and provided me with access to a huge breakthrough in my life as a lover and a partner. In any event, I want to thank you and acknowledge you for the man that you are. I can feel that I'm quickly moving closer to remembering and expressing the man that I am, and you brought that out in me. Without wanting to sound like a stuck record, I am so grateful for you and your love. Thank you, my friend. And, hid the name. But this guy actually was divorced a couple of years ago, and he's been single, and he's actually a very handsome and charming guy, so he's burned through an awful lot of girlfriends. This guy gets laid a lot, and it was kind of interesting that I sent it to him, and I guess he read it, and he's actually now in a relationship. So maybe I had a little something to do with that. I don't know. I'm not claiming credit for that, but the email speaks for itself, and it was an honor getting this from a male friend. This one is from a woman, and also some friends of mine that literally just got married. And she wrote, Alex, 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 wow. Jay and I went home and felt more connected and in sync than ever. Oh, and had great sex. You really hit the nail on the head regarding Jay not fully expressing all of his emotions in bed, and I really needed that. I'm not sure how long it would have taken us to discover that on our own. Your advice gave us another piece of brilliant information to your advice gave us another key piece of information to growing even deeper. You are brilliant. Thank you for your raw honesty and your fucking intensity. God, I love that about you. Jay and I are so fortunate to have you in our lives. Your words of wisdom and insight are priceless. We are definitely going to rely on you as one of our pillars of strength. We are always here for you to offer what we can. What Jay and I did was a bit shocking, but we are so in love and committed to evolving to our highest levels individually and as one. I know that having you on our team will be a key component of our success. I wish I wasn't out of town this weekend so I could have hung out with you before you left. So grateful for you. Take care of yourself down there in the DR, and we will be visiting. Love you, A.D. And the thing that she's talking about that she said, what we did was a bit shocking is these two friends of mine, we've all been friends for many, many years, and they've been friends for many years, and they recently discovered that they were into each other, and they fell in love, and they didn't tell anyone that they were seeing each other because we were, we're kind of a tight-knit group of friends, and then they ran off and got married, and they came back married, and we were all like, what? We didn't even know you guys were into each other, so it was pretty shocking, but now they've got this great marriage, and they're doing really well together, and apparently they're also having great sex. This one, also from a woman, a good friend of mine who lives here on the island. M has been a new man since he read your book in almost every way. The main thing is he's listening both to me and to himself about what the universe is saying at that moment. Pretty great. It's leading to a better sense of connection in every way. I have gratitude in my heart for being married to the love of my life and to you for sharing your book. And kisses and hugs. So again, just kind of a cool thing. And this is a couple, by the way, who've been married for 30 years. They've been together for 30 years. I mean, they're an older couple. And a lot of people who've been married for 30 years aren't having sex at all. And apparently they are, and better. So what an amazing honor. I'm practically tearing up just reading this now. This book, it really does contain every piece of information that you're ever going to need to give a woman the kind of earth-shattering sexual experience that she's never going to experience with anybody else. If you're serious about becoming the type of man that women fantasize and brag to their friends about, then honestly, you owe it to yourself and to every woman you're going to be with for the rest of your life to get your hands on these secrets immediately. I personally guarantee they're going to work for you. They have worked for me, they've worked for my friends, and obviously so many other guys and customers. And by personally guarantee, I mean 2 full months to decide, or you get your money back. Plus, you should act while I've included all the bonuses, the audio version of the book, and the other cool stuff. And that incredibly badass audio class that I did with Susan Bratton. It's the most advanced stuff that I've ever taught anywhere, and I'm super proud of it. So when you click the link, you'll be taken to a super secure SSL and 128-bit encrypted server. It's where your order can be safely processed. They say, in fact, that entering your credit card in an SSL site is safer than having your card swiped at a local shop. And what's going to happen is right after you put in your information, you click the enter button, you're going to get 2 emails. One of them is going to confirm your order and with your receipt, and the other is going to have all the download instructions to get your copy of Revolutionary Sex and all the bonuses. So all you have to do is click below and get all of it right now. Still here. Okay, I'm going to take the opportunity for those who are still hanging on to answer some of the most common questions that I get from customers, and maybe I'll save you the effort of sending me an email. So first question is, when do I get it? And like I said, immediately. You're going to get it right away. As soon as you put in your credit card information and you click the Get It Now button, you'll receive 2 emails. One of the emails is going to be your receipt, and the other email will have your download information. And I guess there are times when the email servers don't talk to each other nicely, and it could take, I guess, a couple of hours, but that would be super unusual. Usually you'll get it pretty much instantly, and if you don't get it within an hour or 2 for sure, email me at support@revolutionarysex.com or alex@revolutionarysex.com, and assuming it's Monday to Friday, we'll take care of it for you immediately. Is it safe to order online? What about my privacy? Well, yeah, it's super safe to order online. It's 128-bit encryption, secure socket system. I use a third-party shopping cart system that is, very, very reputable. They've been around for a long time, and I've been selling online now for 7 years. I've never had a single customer call to tell me they've had any kind of credit card fraud or anything like that. So it's super safe. And I have read that it's safer than swiping a card at your local store or restaurant. And what about your privacy? The name of my company is Life, Love, Passion Incorporated, and the book obviously is called Revolutionary Sex. But on your credit card statement, it's going to just say Alex Allman because some people obviously have some privacy issues, and other people, their accountant looking at their credit card statement, they don't want anything that says sex on it. So it just gets billed on your credit card statement to Alex Allman. I'm a woman. Is this book any good for me? Well, honestly, it's not for you. This book is written for men. And I have another program for women called Revolutionary Sex for Her, and you can find that at revolutionarysexforher.com. That said, women love this book. A tremendous number of my readers are women, and some of them obviously buy it for their husband, and they read it together, and I guess they enjoy it together. But for some women, it's difficult because they don't have that kind of communication and that kind of relationship with their man, and so it wouldn't be the kind of thing they could bring up because they'd have to sort of admit that they want sex to be better than it is, and that's a weird and awkward conversation for some couples. Some couples are okay with it, some aren't. So the other possibility is some women buy it, I assume, because they want to know more about their own body and their own sexual response, and it informs them of what a great lover might be able to do for them. But it really isn't for women. It really is a book that's written for men. But like I said, women love it, but Revolutionary Sex for Her is probably the better option if you're trying to figure out how to have a better sexual experience as a woman. And Revolutionary Sex for Her talks more about how to pull a good performance out of a man, but they're very different programs. How quickly will I get results? Immediately, tonight. And I really mean that. If you open the book to any random page and you read for 2 or 3 minutes, a couple of pages worth, you're going to get something that you can use tonight that will really improve your sex life. I guarantee it. I absolutely guarantee it. There's so much good material in there, and you don't have to read through the entire book to get results. I think obviously everybody should read through the entire book. I really think everybody should read through the entire book for a specific reason, which is there are certain deeper level concepts in the book that aren't just techniques that I talk about literally in every chapter. So I'll talk about it from a fingering technique, from an oral sex technique, from a kissing technique, from an intercourse technique, from an intercourse position. And I'm talking about these same concepts over and over again through these things. And the reason is because they're hard to get. They're more about the way you approach your sexuality emotionally as a man, and the way to deal with women's emotional sexuality and how to deal with these things together. And it's really through reading the entire book that you'll get the best results. But yeah, tonight, you'll get results tonight. And it's a pretty quick read, by the way. It's a little over 200 pages, but it's a pretty quick read, and I think you're going to enjoy every second of the program. But yes, results tonight. I'm not in a relationship. Will it still help me? Well, like I said, it's really not a how to meet women program. And it is kind of cool, I think, to have this book on your shelf and learn this stuff for your next relationship. I think that would be super cool. But it's not stuff you can practice on your own. It really is something that's going to make more sense for you if you're sexually active. So you don't need to be in a relationship. But if you have women in your life that you're sexually active with, if you're dating and you're actually having sex now and then you're going to get a ton out of the book. But if you're not sexually active, if you're a virgin buying it for someday, it's not for you. If you're a virgin buying because you're about to be having sex for the first time, absolutely, then it's going to be absolutely phenomenal for you. But it's not for you if you're not about to be sexually active. And that leads to the question, what if I'm a virgin? So a lot of people that buy the program, that's why they're buying it. In fact, there's an interesting thing that I hadn't thought about, being a resident of big cities in the United States for most of my life, and now living in kind of a wild Caribbean island where it's sort of anything goes. But a large number of my readers are from cultures where there are arranged marriages. And I don't know if it's a large number, it's probably a very small number, but I get a lot of emails from these men who are about to get married, and they're virgins, and their bride-to-be is a virgin. And they've had these conversations with their uncles and male cousins who are married, who say, look, if it's not good the first night, your whole marriage is going to be fucked. Your whole marriage is going to be really screwed up, and she's never going to like sex, and that's going to be the rest of your life. So you got to make sure she has a really good night the first night. And it's funny, and then of course they feel incredibly pressured. And so these guys go on the internet, they do a little research, and they find my site, and they buy my book. And it's great for them. I mean, it's funny how many of them write to me and say, "Oh man, we had like this amazing first night, and thank you." So that's the answer to that question. If you're a virgin and you're getting ready, you and your girlfriend or wife to be have discussed the fact that you're about to be having sex for the first time, then yeah, absolutely, get the book, read it together. I think it would be a great experience for you. But if you're a virgin hoping that this is going to help you get laid, it's not. It's not for you. There's other books that you're going to want to get instead about how to actually get a girlfriend. So I'd recommend that instead. My partner and I fight a lot. Will revolutionary sex help? Yes. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is, obviously, that great sex is not the end-all, be-all, and it's not the answer to every problem in your relationship. But what it does do is it really changes your perspective on your willingness and her willingness to do the work it takes to get through that period where you fight a lot. Because when the sex is great, you really do approach each other differently. You have a different level of respect for each other and a different level of knowing each other, because great sex really is a communication. It's not a yak verbal communication where frankly so much can be misunderstood, which is what leads to a lot of fights with couples. It's a conversation, a nonverbal conversation where nothing can be misunderstood because it's happening in a real physical way. And you get to share a level of intimacy when she surrenders this deeply to you that really makes her know that like you get her. You've kind of got her back in a way that is highly meaningful. She's going to trust you in a new way, and it makes her less apt to kind of bitch about the little stuff. And it really does solve a lot of problems. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of couples who get this program fight a lot less afterwards. And that said, I will tell this story. I was at a book signing once in LA, and a woman came up to me and with kind of a tear in her eye, and she said, Mr. Allman, it's so nice to meet you. My husband and I read your book, and we really enjoyed it, and it almost saved our marriage. And that was kind of bittersweet. But apparently what she said was that after they went through the book together, their sex life dramatically improved. They started having this great sex together, and it really made them realize how many other areas of their life they were really compromising in, and how their marriage really didn't work. Once this one part did work, they realized how much the rest of it didn't. And they parted as friends. So kind of a sad story, and it, I guess, shows that it's not going to solve every problem for every couple, and I'm not going to pretend that it is, but I really do think that very often when you and your partner are fighting a lot, it's because the physical intimacy isn't working, and you both feel it. You both feel some resentment. You're kind of present to the fact that you could be with other women who might be more willing to give you the kind of sex you want. She might be present to the fact that you're not really making the effort that she feels you should be making to sexually satisfy her. And so she's like, why should I even do it anymore? And this is the conversations people have in their head. So if there was one thing about this program that I'd be most proud of, it would be the relationships that it has helped to rejuvenate and to make better and maybe even to save. So that's a really big deal to me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I certainly had a lot of fun making it for you. All you have to do to get started is click the button below. You'll get taken to the secure order page, and from there you can enter your information, and like I said, you'll immediately be sent the download information for the program so you can enjoy it tonight. And I know that you are really going to be amazed and pleased by the incredible abilities you're going to gain in your sex life. Just like thousands and thousands of other readers before you. It worked for them, and it's going to work for you too. So go ahead and click the button below, and thank you very much.